The room froze. Karoline Leavitt stood beneath the blinding studio lights, her fingers curled around the edges of the podium. Across from her, Meryl Streep, poised, revered, silent, stared back with that familiar, unshakable calm. But tonight, something cracked. "You've had the floor for decades," Karoline said, her voice low but laced with fire. But maybe the applause was never truth, just habit. A stunned murmur rippled through the audience. No cue cards, no prepared statements, just two women, one stage, and a truth that couldn't be rehearsed. Backstage, producers panicked, sponsors whispered, viewers leaned in, breathless. She wasn't supposed to speak. Not like this. Not to her. But something inside Karoline had snapped, and when she took that final step forward, her voice didn't tremble. It soared. "You don't speak for us anymore," she said, eyes locked on Meryl. "You speak over us." A silence louder than any ovation followed. Because deep down, everyone knew this moment had been building for years. And now, it was finally breaking. Karoline Leavitt was never meant to stand on this stage. At least, not according to the script written by the old guard. Young, sharp, relentless. A political firebrand who traded DC corridors for cultural battlefields. To some, she's the voice of a forgotten America. To others, a reckless disruptor. But love her or loathe her, you listen when she speaks. Then there's Meryl Streep, an institution. Decades of awards, standing ovations, and speeches that stirred nations. She's not just an actress, she's a voice, a moral compass. Or so the industry believed. But every compass, eventually, spins off course. Their collision wasn't personal, it was generational, ideological. A public reckoning between those who speak from earned legacy and those who speak because the legacy ignored them. Karoline didn't want a fight, but when Meryl stood behind a microphone and painted the new voices as dangerous noise, Karoline stepped forward, not to shout, but to unmask. And in that choice, a cultural earthquake began. It was supposed to be a celebration. The annual Silver Echoes Gala, honoring storytelling in all its forms. Film, politics, journalism, all under one gilded ceiling in Los Angeles. The crowd was elegant, the press eager, and the stage glowing. Karoline Leavitt was seated near the back. Not snubbed, just positioned. Enough to be present, not enough to matter. Then came the final award of the night. The Voice of Influence honor, presented to Meryl Streep. As she walked up the steps, the applause was thunderous. She smiled with practiced grace, gold clutch in hand, speech tucked neatly in her mind. But what she said next wasn't what anyone expected. "We live in a time," Meryl began, "where performance has bled into politics, where outrage replaces reason, and divisive rhetoric masquerades as courage." A few claps. Then silence. She didn't mention names, but she didn't have to. The audience turned, subtly, instinctively, towards Karoline. Meryl's voice grew colder. Influence, real influence, doesn't scream in caps lock or ride algorithms. It listens, it learns, it lifts. Karoline didn't blink. She sat still, every word slicing like a whispered insult. By morning, the clip had gone viral. The headlines wrote themselves. Streep slams culture of outrage. Subtle, sharp, and aimed right at Karoline. Leavitt stares down Streep. What was said off camera? A war of words began, waged in headlines, subtweets, and stitched TikToks. Karoline's team urged silence. "Don't feed it," they said. "Let it fade." But Karoline wasn't built to fade. She waited 24 hours, then posted a 2-minute response, dressed in simple black, no music, no edits. She looked directly into the lens. "There was a time I admired her," she began. "But something happens when the celebrated stop listening. They stop seeing." Her voice tightened. I was raised to believe that courage wasn't reserved for the famous, that ideas mattered more than resumes, that standing your ground, even when the room is against you, is not outrage, it's conviction. Then came the line that split the internet in half. So to those who perform empathy in designer gowns, ask yourself, are you lifting voices or just controlling the mic? The video hit 1 million views in under 3 hours. Comments flooded in. Memes exploded. TikTok duets dissected every line. Late-night hosts took turns mocking both women. The studio behind the gala went quiet. But one call changed everything. A primetime debate. Live. One-on-one. And both said yes. The announcement was simple. One night. 2 voices. One nation watching. It aired across major networks within hours. A live broadcast, professionally moderated, featuring Karoline Leavitt and Meryl Streep in what was framed as a dialogue on cultural responsibility. In reality, it was a televised collision course, a generational standoff wrapped in polite language and ratings gold. Producers knew the stakes. This wasn't just about 2 women. It was about the direction of public discourse itself. The marketing strategy reflected that. Monochrome posters, slow piano underscoring tension-filled trailers, hashtags like the debate and voice via's virtue trending in over 20 states. In the days leading up, narratives hardened. Editorials on both coasts dissected Meryl's speech. Cultural critics praised its nuance, calling her the last of the moral giants. Simultaneously, op-eds framed Karoline as the embodiment of post-institutional candor, raw, disruptive, unfiltered. Public interest intensified when a behind-the-scenes leak revealed the studio's internal debate about proceeding. A memo stated, "Proceeding with a live feed is high risk, potential fallout if either party escalates." Still, they proceeded. Ratings spoke louder than risk. Meanwhile, Karoline prepared quietly. Her inner circle, comprised of strategists and former media operatives, focused not on counterattacks, but precision. No emotional outbursts, no ad hominem, just facts, tone, and presence. She rehearsed with legal analysts, media coaches, and even a retired FBI negotiator who advised, "Silence can be more lethal than words. Use it." Meryl's camp took a different approach. Publicists doubled down on her legacy. Soft-focus commercials began re-airing her most iconic performances. Studio friends offered public support. A-list endorsements rolled in. Yet, the air felt different. Days before the event, an unverified clip began circulating online. It showed Karoline leaving a coffee shop as a group of protesters confronted her. One threw a latte. She didn't react, no security detail, just a sharp glance before walking away. The clip went viral. "She's not afraid," one commenter wrote. "Say what you want, but she doesn't flinch." Finally, the night arrived. The studio was dimly lit. A single stage, 2 armchairs, no applause track, no audience, just silence. Meryl entered first, draped in midnight blue, face composed. Then Karoline, minimal makeup, dark suit, eyes steady. The moderator welcomed both. The first question was mild. What responsibility do public figures have when speaking to millions? Meryl's response was poised, articulate. She referenced history, art, and the power of storytelling. Karoline nodded. She waited, then she spoke. "Stories shape nations," she began. "But when stories are only told by one kind of voice, they become scripts, not truth." The air tightened. Next question. "Do you believe your words at the gala were misinterpreted?" Meryl leaned forward. "Not misinterpreted. Misused. My intent was never personal." Karoline replied, "Intent doesn't protect impact." Then it happened. Midway through the broadcast, the moderator announced a contextual segment. A clip would be played, one approved by both camps, allegedly to showcase prior thought leadership. But what aired was different. The screen flickered. The footage dated back 10 years, an off-camera moment during a private fundraising gala. Meryl, speaking candidly, joked about Middle America's obsession with feeling seen. The tone was dismissive. The room had laughed. The studio now fell into absolute stillness. Meryl shifted. "That clip is out of context," she said, voice shaking slightly. Karoline didn't interrupt. She waited, then said, "Context doesn't erase contempt." From that moment forward, the balance of power subtly shifted. Twitter exploded. Commentators paused. And viewers, millions of them, stayed, riveted, because something irreversible had just begun. For a few seconds after the clip aired, neither woman spoke. Meryl inhaled, steadying herself. "That was a decade ago," she said, hands clasped, tone clipped. "Private setting, different world." Karoline didn't look at her. She looked into the camera. "Different world," she repeated. "Or same arrogance, just fewer cameras." The words hit like a slap in a silent room. Not shouted, not dramatic. Just surgical. The moderator shifted nervously. The studio's control room lit up with blinking red lights, alerts for social media spikes, broadcast feedback, and viewership surges. Meryl sat taller, folding her arms, defiant now. "I've spent 40 years advocating for the silenced," she said. "You don't get to rewrite that." Karoline turned to her, finally. "No," she said softly. "But I get to ask why you stopped listening to the ones who don't applaud you." It was no longer a debate. It was a dismantling. Every carefully placed brick of legacy now under a magnifying glass. Outside, on live feeds and comment threads, the public split, violently. Some defended Meryl with passion. Others began to question. Not her artistry, but her immunity to criticism. A new hashtag took over. Mic drop moment clips from the event were remixed, dissected, turned into sound bites. "I get to ask why you stopped listening," replayed over and over like a cultural reckoning. But the true breaking point came the next morning. A journalist from a respected indie outlet published a thread. In it, transcripts from that same gala a decade ago, leaked by a former server. The quotes were damning. Private jokes about flyover states, mockery of conservative women in media, dismissive lines about public school teachers, all spoken casually, among elites sipping champagne. Meryl's team issued a statement. Comments taken out of context do not reflect Ms. Streep's lifelong values or work. But it wasn't enough. News anchors began calling it the unraveling of the pedestal. Others wondered aloud if this was a symptom of something larger. Not about Meryl, but about the disconnect between Hollywood and the people watching from outside the velvet rope. Karoline, meanwhile, remained silent for 2 days. Then she posted a single sentence to her socials. "The truth doesn't need makeup." 6 words. 6 million likes. Even people who once dismissed her began resharing it. The balance had shifted. Permanently. For the first time, legacy wasn't enough. And the mic was no longer in Meryl's hand. The apology came on a Tuesday. Typed, polished, buried in a press release. No video, no voice, no eyes. Just a statement from Meryl's PR team acknowledging regret over comments that do not reflect my heart. But the world had changed in 5 days. The internet didn't want PR regret. It wanted accountability. It wanted authenticity. And for the first time in her decades-long career, Meryl Streep had none to offer. She canceled her upcoming film junket. Talk show appearances were rescheduled. Her agent declined interviews. Publicists stopped answering questions. Every step she took to regain control only confirmed how much she'd lost. Karoline didn't gloat. She didn't need to. Her silence spoke louder than any victory lap. The world did the talking for her. Clips of the debate trended again, but now with new overlays. Quotes from former co-stars, anonymous crew members, even veteran journalists who confessed they'd always felt beneath the curtain of Hollywood's elite. Then came the most crushing blow. A longtime assistant, someone who had worked with Meryl for over 8 years, published an open letter. Not bitter, not cruel, just honest. She is brilliant, but she learned early that applause was a weapon. And when the applause stopped, so did the grace. It went viral. Even loyal fans paused. Meryl's once impenetrable image began to crack, not because she was evil, but because she was unreachable, too guarded, too above. Karoline, meanwhile, was everywhere, but not with sound bites or slogans. She appeared in long-form interviews, documentaries, podcasts. She didn't attack, she explained. She didn't celebrate, she reflected. "I never wanted to humiliate her," she said on one stream. "I just wanted to ask why someone so powerful couldn't imagine being wrong." It resonated, because Karoline didn't just speak truth to power. She spoke through power, and back to the people who always felt unseen by it. And for the first time in years, the cultural tide didn't just shift, it snapped. Hollywood, for all its lights and legacy, had been caught blinking. And Karoline? She never raised her voice, but somehow, she had said everything. 2 weeks later, when the dust had seemingly settled, Karoline posted a video. No lights, no makeup, no production value. Just a handheld camera, a quiet room, a soft rain tapping the window behind her. "Before I say anything," she began, "I want to show you something." She reached off screen and held up a photo. It was worn at the corners. A teenage girl, awkward smile, braces gleaming, standing next to none other than Meryl Streep. "My mother waited 6 hours in line for this photo," Karoline said, voice calm. "She cried when we met her. She said, 'One day you'll be strong like her.'" She paused. "I believe that." The internet froze. No one expected this, because for weeks Karoline had been the storm, direct, confident, unshakable. But now, she was something more dangerous, vulnerable. "I don't hate Meryl," she continued. "I was heartbroken by her. There's a difference." She leaned closer. "When people like her dismiss people like me, they're not just attacking politics. They're crushing the kid who once looked up and thought, 'Maybe I could be heard too.'" Her eyes didn't water, but millions watching did, even her critics, even those who called her a provocateur. Because in that moment, she wasn't a talking point. She was a daughter, a memory, a voice. She ended the video with just 5 words. "I still love that photo," and closed the laptop. Within hours, the clip overtook every feed. TV hosts choked up reading her words. Media outlets that once dismissed her now called it the most unexpected moment of grace in modern media discourse. Then came something no one anticipated. An open letter from an A-list actor who had starred alongside Meryl 3 times. It read, "We build our thrones on applause." But Karoline reminded us that the people watching are more than an audience. They're our mirror. And lately, we haven't liked what we've seen. It ended with a confession. Meryl isn't a villain, but she forgot something. Even legends need to listen. That letter changed the tone, not just of the story, but of the industry. What began as a cultural clash had become something deeper. A reckoning with what it means to influence. A reminder that legacy, without humility, is just noise. And Karoline Leavitt, once dismissed as a disruptor, had offered something few icons ever give: a final, quiet mercy. The days that followed felt like the world exhaling, not because the storm was over, but because something in it had shifted. Major networks replayed the video of Karoline's childhood photo, but this time, anchors didn't smirk. They listened. "She humanized the moment," one commentator said. "She didn't destroy Meryl. She exposed the culture around her." Online, the hashtag number "I still love that photo" became a movement. People began posting their own childhood snapshots with icons they once admired, some with gratitude, others with grief. "They inspired me," one post read, "but they also forgot me." Think pieces poured in, not just about Meryl, but about the pedestal, the distance between voices that lead and those who live. Karoline's words were quoted in classrooms, podcasts, boardrooms. Even political figures, once hesitant to associate with her firebrand image, now referenced her with respect. Not because she won, but because she reframed the fight. Meanwhile, Meryl Streep withdrew from public view. Her team released no further statements, no follow-up interviews, no reactive campaigns. Weeks later, she quietly appeared in a small off-Broadway play under a different name. No press, no premiere, just the work, stripped of spectacle. Some called it penance, others self-preservation. Either way, the silence spoke volumes. The Academy issued a statement without naming anyone. Legacy is not an excuse. Influence must come with listening. One by one, other celebrities began changing their tone. Less lecturing, more listening. Fewer monologues, more conversations. Not overnight, but noticeably. And Karoline? She turned down 3 television offers, declined a major publishing deal. Instead, she launched a program, a scholarship, funded not by donors, but by people. Small-town teachers, first-generation students, factory workers. Over 70,000 contributors in the first month. The program? The Mic Project, designed to give rural and underserved youth a platform, not to speak louder, but to be heard better. No glam, no billboards, just a growing archive of voices that had once been muted. When asked why she didn't capitalize more on the moment, Karoline answered simply, "I didn't come to win a war. I came to end a pattern." And in that, she did something few have achieved in the digital age. She didn't just shift opinion, she shifted the culture by showing the world that sometimes it's not about who has the mic, it's about who deserves it. In the end, it wasn't rage that changed the room, it was restraint. Karoline Leavitt didn't rise by yelling louder. She rose by standing still when silence was pressure and legacy stood against her. Meryl Streep didn't fall from grace. She drifted from it, slowly, quietly, by forgetting that the applause isn't the purpose, it's the echo. This story wasn't about fame or politics or revenge. It was about who we listen to and who we refuse to hear. And when a young voice stood before an icon and didn't flinch, the world learned something. That influence without humility is noise. And sometimes, truth doesn't roar. It just waits until the room is quiet enough to hear it. If this story moved you, subscribe for more stories where truth flips the narrative.